TitleMatchNetwork.com.
We left, me and my partner Chris Collins, man, we left at 5 a.m. this morning. I got up at 1, brother. And,
wow.
Hey, like you, man, I train, but I don't train with that heavy stuff, man. You know, I do a lot of stretching and everything. And I got up, man, hey, I showered, I trained, worked out a little bit, stretched, and ate good protein.
Right, breakfast?
Yeah, man, and hey, we hit the road, and
good.
we're here.
Well, let's begin. Let's talk about life growing up for Jimmy Valiant. What was life growing up as a young teenager and all that stuff?
Well, you know, Rob, I tell you, I was like 12 years old, man, playing Little League, you know, and it's something that it's just, I felt a little funny, something inside, you know, as I was batting one time and during the game, and I said, man, geez, that felt real funny in my chest or whatever. But I didn't say nothing to the coach. I didn't say nothing to my mother and father because I was afraid they'd make me quit, you know. And I didn't know something wasn't right, you know. But then it'd go away, and man, it wouldn't happen for months and that. And then I started playing football in 7th and 8th grade and went all the way through high school. I played 6 years of football all the way through high school, and I felt the same thing. So I knew something was going on. But again, I wouldn't tell the coach or no one because then I wrestled for over 50 years, and I still had it. So when I got 75, all of a sudden I just fell apart or something because hey, years ago, Rob, man, you know, we'd go to every state had a commission. I mean, every state, Indiana, Illinois, wherever we went, Tennessee, and of course now they don't. Just a few states have. Maryland has one,
right?
You know, commission, and Virginia and Kentucky, South Carolina, but most of didn't. But every commission state. They had to have a commissioned doctor. So the doctor would come, they'd check our heart, all the boys. I mean, for 50-something years, and no one caught nothing. And then 75 years old, I go, and they says, you know, your heart is offbeat. It's not steady. And so they sent me the heart. So I got the AFib, which is irregular heartbeat.
Right.
And he says, did you know you had it? And I says, well, I knew since I was 12 years old I had something, but now I know. So they put me on stuff because they're afraid of blood clot or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, here's what I'm saying is growing up. So when I was like 12 years old, I also seen this one ad. I want to tell the people this is so cool because it's an ad and it's Charles Atlas course. You know, be a He-Man in 6 days or whatever. It's dynamic tension. You send in 10 cents. It was a dime, man.
Right.
For this course, and you get a course and it explains how to do it, and it's just, you know, pressing against one thing and it's all no weights or nothing. So but I followed the picture, and he was a skinny, you know, a kid, and here's a big, strong guy came and
pushed him down.
Yeah, kicked sand in his face.
Yeah.
That was it, brother. You seen it?
It's in a Mad magazine when I was little.
You bet. There it is. Well, that one your marketing ad, you know, changed many a young boy's life, you know, to build their body and wanted to be like that because the next summer, he's the He-Man, and he shoved that guy's face, took his girl back or took his girl, whatever, and he was the He-Man, see? And from a 99-pound weakling, it says to a He-Man. Well, that marketing, that changed my life. So I said, man, how do you do that? I talked to my dad, and he says, well, he was a millwright, and he said, we got some big ball bearings that work. He said, I'm going to weld a handle on it, you know, and he says, I'm going to bring it home to you, and I know you got to lift it. So I didn't know what I was doing. I lifted stuff until it burnt, man, and I jumped down. I do 25 push-ups every night just before I went to bed. Boom, 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 25 push-ups, jump in bed, man, and my heart just going ding, 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 ding. And then I dream, I just fall right to sleep, man, dream of big muscles and wrestling. I love wrestling, I always love wrestling. And hey, it worked out for me, man. It worked for me, brother. But that was my whole life growing up, and I grew up in a Christian family. I was very fortunate.
What state?
You know,
what state were you in?
Yeah, Indiana.
Indiana?
I was born in Tennessee, Tullahoma, Tennessee, and when I was 3 years old, my family, my dad went to join the war started. I was born in 1942, and the war was going on, so he went to in 45 to join the army, and his name's Jim, and he says, Jim, how many children do you have at home? He said, I got 5. I was the baby. I was the boy,
Right.
a baby boy. And he says, you go home. That's where you need to be. And the guy gives me chills, man. And so he went home. They were just farms, you know. They were just farmers in Tennessee. And he couldn't make a living there then because, you know, the war. And so he took a train to Hammond, Indiana, and then he went into Chicago. He got a job at Ford Motor Company. Well, at that time they weren't making Fords, but they were making stuff for the Army, for our U.S.
For the war, yeah.
Yeah, for war. So he came back and he worked 2 weeks, and they loved the Southern men because they were hard work. They came right off the farm. Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, they just loved these boys. And my dad gave them 100% of hard work. And so at that time, he says, he told his foreman, he says, just give me this weekend. He said, I'm going home, get my family. I'm coming right back. And he said, I'll never miss another day. And God bless, and they let him, and he came and got us, and we went. So I was raised in Hammond, Indiana, from 3 years on up, and so I was a Hoosier man. Hey, I was the only,
right?
Yeah, I was the only Yankee up there, you know, but Southern boy eating cornbread and biscuits 3 times a day, man.
That is awesome.
Yes, sir.
How did you discover pro wrestling?
Pro wrestling, man. My uncle, God bless him, Uncle Oscar. He had polio, and which was real.
Yep.
Many people had it before they had the vaccine, but he had the built up shoe, and he just loved wrestling, and TV came around 1950, and of course it was on that DuPont, station, and that came out of Chicago, man, right there where we were. We were 30 minutes from downtown Loop of Chicago. Hammond, Indiana is right on Lake Michigan, far north as you can get in Indiana, right on the coast, and you can be in downtown Chicago in 30 minutes. Well, that's where that came from, but it was live, and it went all over. That was one of the network stations, so I would go over on the weekend. I just loved my Uncle Oscar because Mom and Dad they wouldn't watch it because it came on late then,
right?
Like midnight or something, or 11. And so I'd go and I'd take a nap, and I said, "Wake me up, Uncle Oscar, man," and he did. So I watched it there, and that's where I got hooked. And then we'd get down on the floor, me and him would wrestle, man.
Right,
it was just a ball, man.
So did you go to house shows and stuff at all? Did you go to any live events early on when you were a kid?
No, never did. And it's so funny, you know, Rob, that the very first match that I was seen it live in person, even stepped in the ring, I wrestled at.
Wow.
Because it just happened so fast. I was working at a health club, I just got out of high school, just a young kid, and I had a baby, you know. I got married teenager, real young, and we had a little girl, Robin, so I was working at Acres Health Club in Calumet City, Illinois, which is right on the border of Hammond, Indiana, the state line. And so I was I was an instructor and help managing the club and everything for him, and a bodybuilder. I was really training then.
Right.
And like you, brother, you look great, brother. God bless you, man. So at that time, this was his name was Frank Zila that owned it, and one day he introduced me to a wrestler that came in, and he says, "This is Nikolai Volkov." And I says, Nick, and now I'm not talking about the Nikolai Volkov that the people know, you know, that was teamed up with the Sheik in the 80s and tag team. This is the original Nikolai Volkov. His name was Steve Gobb. In fact, he was from New Jersey here, right out of New York, and you look him up in your history books, guys, because he was a Olympic weightlifter. He went to our Olympics, and then he became a pro wrestler. And there was the Volkov brothers, and they were real hot in the 40s, 50s. I mean, the Volkovs.
Right.
And one was Nikolai, and the other one was Boris. Well, his partner Boris, he was no longer there. Nikolai, when they split and stopped, Nikolai was went out to sea, and he was a captain on tugboats. And so that was his career there. He'd stay out 3-4 months at a time. Well, then he wanted one more run, and he knew Frank Zila, and Frank had that big barrel chest, and
Right.
he looked like the Russian, and so he made him Boris, and he says Nikolai's coming back, and he took a leave of absence, and real fast he got together, and so he started the circuit with Dick the Bruiser and Gagne, and of course the Sheik in Detroit, and so then, man, just weeks later he says, Jimmy, you ought to do this. He says, man, you're young, you're good looking, you got a good body, you got nice hair. He's telling me everything that, I had when I was young. And he says, this would be good for you, man. You love to work out, man. And he says, I'll train you. I'll break you in. And I'll tell you what he did. We had an old dojo room. They did karate. They did, all that stuff. And it was just a mat and no windows, just a mat in there, no ring or nothing. So another one of his instructors, and his name was Gary Mollenauer. So we were both like brothers. They thought we was brothers because we were big young kids. He just came out of the Marines, so he said, Gary says, I want to do that. I said, well, go ask Frank, man. And he says, hey, yeah. And he said, man, Frank says, while he's training you, he's going to train me. So he gave us a little, the first thing is be there Monday, every Monday, 5 days a week in the dojo room. He says at 1 o'clock and train from 1 to 2. We worked for him, both of us did. And then the rest you go back to work. But all he said was, hey, the first time, just wrestle. We didn't know what we was doing, man. We watched this and that, but we're killing each other. We're just two big raw bone kids, and man, we were skin up, cut up, busted our lips, eyes, and man, all kinds of mad person. But anyway, we did it that week. The next week he did something else to it. Next week, we wrestled 4 weeks, I think it was. And he put us in the first match. And the first match, we took their place because Boris, my boss, Frank Zila, he was the Boris. He had plugs in his hair put in, and it blew his eyes out, and he didn't want no one to see that. And man, so he went to Florida for a week. Well, they were wrestling at St. Andrews. This was in 1964.
Right.
That was my first match. And in May 6th, I never forget it. Went to Chicago at St. Andrews Arena, so we took the Volkov's place. Didn't know how to tie our shoes, but we had. They bought our shoes and our tights for us because the week before they went at Carr and Hildegard, so they got that done, and so he came back and. Here we go, and we're on the main event. We're taking their place. They said, this is the Valentine brothers from Hollywood, California, Jimmy and Gary Valentine. We're known as Valentine. And so we went out there, didn't know nothing, and we wrestled against two, they called the G-Men. They were they were really top hands, and they had a real good run in Chicago. And Billy Gills and Johnny Gilbert, that was their name, and the G-Men. And brother, they put a 2 out of 3 main event. We didn't know nothing, and hey, I admit it. And man, they're doing this and that. All of a sudden, I got a hold on, brother. Man, how did I do that? But same thing. We got scared. We didn't know how to fall. We didn't know nothing. So
when were you clued in? At like what point? Who clued you into the business?
Well, we didn't have no wrestling camp. This is how we trained, and he really didn't smarten us up. He didn't do nothing except give us the opportunity, and they didn't talk about it. It was such a close-knit family, our profession, and I'm still old school, man. I don't even talk about it,
Right.
I got a book, it's called, Woo, Messy Daddy, Welcome My World, the Jimmy Valiant story, 600 pages, brother.
Wow.
Man. Hardback, and I only got three cases left, man, but we're going to get rid of some tonight, baby, I'm telling you, man. Rob, what they did was actually you have on the job. This is before Gagne had his school.
Right.
This was before, there was one in Chicago, Bob Saber. There was one there in
Brad Reagan's.
Exactly, and all that, and so there was no school, so you would learn on the job. But the thing was, if you was a wise guy, if you thought you knew everything,
They'll stretch
brother,
you.
oh, they'll hurt you.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll break your leg. Hey, brother, you would put the tail between your legs and run like a scalded dog, because these guys, man, they were the real deal. The 20-inch necks, cauliflower ears, crooked nose, busted, and they're tough men, all of them, every one of them. And so if you were not a wise guy, and if you really show respect and want this so bad, I know every kid wants this so bad, but don't be cocky. Don't let nothing change you. Even once you get your break, what can kill you, brother, and change you and just blow you away, and you're never the same, is either the success and the money, the big money's coming in out of nowhere, and that changes you. And I never did let the success, or the money bug bite me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was the same person, and I proved that because they all took me under their wing and they showed me the ropes, and they still didn't smarten me up, brother. Really no one did. When the week that we started the first match, this is a good little part. Downstairs of the Acres, where we were managing the health club in Kansas City, a world champion, Bobby Manigoff. Check it out, guys. He won the world championship. Flair's belt. I'm talking about that belt, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He had that belt in 1942, the year I was born. And at that time, Bobby had he was almost blind. Yeah, and he was down there massaging. Old-time wrestler, which I knew, and he says, Jimmy, while I'm gone, he went to Florida to heal up. He didn't want people to see him. He says, all week, go down there and have lunch with Bobby, and don't bother him if he's massaging, because that's how he makes his money. He had the glaucoma in his eyes, and he says to go down there and talk to Bobby. You'll learn so much from Bobby. Just pick his brain. So every day at lunch, we had lunch together. And so the first day, now he working downstairs in the basement. First day we come up, and first he says, come here, kid. He says, hey, let's tie up. So boom, I tie up like a raging bull, boom, he says, whoa, wait a minute, son. He says, hey, slow up. He says, where you going, man? He says, if you're going to do this it was the first thing I stopped and thought, if you're going to do this for a living, man, hey, you can't do it this way. He says, you're going to wear yourself out, hurt yourself, hurt someone, or you're going to get hurt, And so that was sort of, and he never smartened me up. They didn't talk about it, brother. They protected that like you would protect your family, man, the business, and oh man, it's like night and day, man.